Okay, very good. So thanks everybody for joining in on today. We'd like to do this before we do any release of the website, and we're down to doing this a couple of times a year. Let me kind of start out introductions in case you don't know me. My name's Dennis Smeltzer. I'm the president of TSANet. Paul, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, Paul Esch, and I'm responsible for the strategy and business development at TSANet.
Okay, and we're going to kind of tag team you guys today. We're doing this release. This actually is in perspective to some of the other releases, maybe not as many features, but there's some really key things in here. And quite honestly, some of the things that we had to do to get to what you're going to see today was where it won't be necessarily apparent to you. There was a lot of stuff that we had to do as administration behind the website to get to the point where we're doing today. So there was a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide here. So these are kind of the three really key areas that we're going to cover. We want to talk about the new login method for callers. And Paul, I'm going to give you a heads up. I want you to talk a little bit about the interface into Case Exchange on this and why we did it. But we're also going to talk about microsites. And microsites is something behind the custom groups, and there's some things that we captured out of our strategy days that we've had that the members would like to see. So we've included some of those. I think you're going to find those very interesting, as well as the second and the third bullet kind of tie into each other in a way, and that we're really improving the ability for you to set up relationships and make it a lot easier to do that, as well as the microsite feature. And you'll kind of see that as we get through this a little bit. But let me dig into this login feature, and I want to cover kind of the high level of it, and then Paul can get into kind of the logic behind it and where it fits into Case Exchange. But one of the things that we found is we actually did some features a couple of releases ago about the ability for members to be able to request an account, and then that tied in to some security things behind it, making sure the domain was correct. Also, and then it went into emails, and you could automate the process. We've kind of moved that out a little bit and sort of updated it to be a little bit more like what you see with a lot of sites now, where you can go in and request an account. But we also need to put that security behind it. I think at the onset, one of the things that's really necessary for everybody to understand is this is a feature that we can turn on and turn off. So there's not going to be any dramatic changes unless you're notified that we're going to do this. As far as the login feature is concerned, you won't see this until you and I are working on it together. Okay, so from an administration perspective, even if you implement this, there's no change. So if you have personal credentials into the system, there would be no change for that, whether you're a business manager, a program manager, or a caller. All that's going to remain the same. If you're using the group login feature, and a lot of people are doing that now, again, this will not affect that, but this is going to give you an additional capability as we're looking down the road that also introduces a little bit more security into this as opposed to the group login feature. So we're going to keep it very simple. I think a lot of you are familiar with, you go out to a particular site and you want to get a login, you can request a login. Going to be a similar type of approach to that, except that we're going to put some security behind that, to where if you're not part of that domain and you can identify the domain, then it's not going to happen, right? I mean, it'll be blocked and you won't be able to do that. It's also going to tie into the particular unit that you're on. So if you're on a particular laptop or a desktop, then actually it will authenticate that particular device. And we haven't decided exactly how many days we're going to do that, but typically I think you're either a 30 or a 90-day type of thing that we set it up for that device. And again, we're back restricting us to the domain. So anybody outside of the domain is not going to be able to request an account. You're also going to be able to define what relationships that the new user coming in and that is authenticated to get into TSANet, what they're going to be able to see. So if you're one of those companies that is, and there's a lot of them on this call here today, that have multiple custom groups, and maybe some of those custom groups are highly strategic that not everybody in the support center needs to get access to, you're going to be able to control that. So that won't be an issue. And Paul, you want to talk a little bit about the Case Exchange and how we got into this from the Case Exchange perspective?
Yeah, sure. So we've been seeing a lot of requests now for people to activate the web version of Case Exchange. So there's, the ability to get the connectors if you're on Salesforce and some of those, but we're starting to see an uptick in people wanting to use Case Exchange through the web. So of course that then requires a higher level of security. So we've been suggesting and actually making it a policy that when you activate Case Exchange, you should not use the group login. But of course, for some companies, the group login has been a very simple way to access the site. So this is a change that allows us to maintain the simplicity of that group login, but bring the security up to the level that's required for Case Exchange, since you're, putting data in there and not just viewing contact documents. It needs to be a more secure access method.
Okay, great. And these next two slides are going to give you an idea of what this is going to look like. Now, I personally think this is really going to be a neat little feature. So we use Cisco here as an example, but what you'll be able to do, and again, right, none of this is turned on until we work with the member company to do that and be able to demo it and see what it'll look like. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the domain like we do with a lot of the partner program landing pages, and it'll become company.tsanet.org, and it'll take your user to this area. Now, what we heard from our members was, okay, well, we're going to put some stuff that TSANet will put in there, but then we're also going to give the ability for the member company to be able to put information in there directed directly to their support staff and how they would gain access into it, into TSANet. So if in this example, Cisco people would be able to go to cisco.tsanet.org, and it's going to pull up this page. And what they'll be able to do is then very easily get into requesting access to get into the member web, and all that will be predefined, and then the user, the member company will be able to go in there and actually define a specific message to their users. So kind of like an intranet, but still external to TSANet and specific to TSANet, that we think what this is going to do is actually expand out even more to where you'll be able to use different features into it. But you'll be able to direct your support staff to your company .tsanet.org, and they're going to be able to see this. And the next slide here is a little bit better example of that. So again, you can see we'll co-brand it, so it'll have your logo up there. You'll again be able to go in and edit your notes, and we'll have some general template notes that we'll put in there that we can change from time to time. But we think this is really going to be a nice feature. And again, you'll be able to the members will be able to come in and say, all right, I need to get access into TSANet. You're going to be able to define exactly how that's going to happen and what relationships that they're going to see. So this is probably the most prevalent feature that's going to come out of this this next release, and we think you're going to like it. And again, we're going to work with you to implement this, because I know a lot of you are using the group logins, and we don't want to confuse people about this, so we want to make sure that we've got an aligned message that we're sending out to the support staff. Anything else, Paul? I went to the next slide. Anything else on that you want to bring up, or is that pretty much covered?
No, I think you covered it. The only thing I'd kind of maybe add is, our thinking here as far as transitioning people that are on a group login to this. Again, there'd be a plan, but the thought is, you would not have to make a major change to your users. They'd go to the group login. We just redirect them to this page. So I think you can, assume that's just going to be a pretty smooth transition to this new method as well.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you've got any feedback that you want to give us, we'll give you our email addresses and stuff that you can give us some feedback on how maybe you would like to roll this out. So the next feature we're going to talk about here is actually, this ties into custom groups. And let me give you the high level on this. The high level on this is, boy, we have seen a lot of activity and a lot of strategic activity. And when Paul conducts these strategy days, we seem to really quickly zero in and focus in on what we can do down the road to help our members. And it seems to always tie into a much more strategic plan that falls around custom groups. So where we certainly still see the big value and benefit of coming into the Alliance and being part of the basic and the premium TSANet, where you've got that, we'll call it insurance policy with all of those companies, we're seeing a lot more activity on the strategic side of the custom group area. So what we did was we heard back from our members about enhancing that capability, and it really kind of morphs itself down into the relationship aspect to it and the microsite aspect to it. And then basically how you see that. So one of the things that we've heard is, I want to find it really easy for me to add another group and do that kind of stuff, and I want to see what I've got as an administrator of TSANet. I want to see all the different groups I've got. It's especially relevant in some of the large companies. So what we've done is we've actually added in the administration menu, which a lot of you on the call have been into, we've actually moved that area down to where it's part of the main menu tab, and you'll see that in a minute, the groups area, and you can click on it and be able to see all the activity around the custom groups that you have, as well as the microsites that you have, et cetera, that kind of thing. And then the other piece here that we think is going to be a big benefit is that if you need to form a new group, or you need to have another microsite, or even multiple microsites within the same relationship, you can click a button, and that will allow us to come in and automatically find out what it is that you want to do, and we can help create it for you. So you don't have to wait around. All you got to do is click a button and let us work with you to create whatever it is that you want as far as that relationship or that microsite is concerned. So we've got kind of a couple use cases down here. So for example, if we're seeing a lot of strategic relationships where you've got a particular microsite for a group of companies, and they want to say upgrade a particular customer's environment. Well, maybe that's not a long-term thing, right? Maybe it's a short-term thing where we've got a few companies involved in it, and we just need to make sure that everything is working, the compatibility, all that kind of stuff. So we can create a microsite in addition to the existing microsite for collaboration within a few companies, and then you can get rid of that. So that's kind of a request that we got in, and they don't have to be open group members. We can set them in as limited members. There's all sorts of different things that we can do here. So have the ability to pull in other members into a particular project or something like that. Very easy to do. We're trying to make this where it meets all of your needs from a relationship perspective. And then the second one down there would be, adding a group to provide support for a group of vendors. And you've got not only your vendors involved in it, but maybe in certain aspects of it, you've got your channel partners involved in it. So you might want to pull in a couple of channel partners. So again, giving you the ability to do that and pull those members in to meet the needs of whatever the relationship or whatever the solution is that you're providing out to your customers. Paul, anything you want to add to that before I move on?
Maybe just to reiterate the what kind of is going to go on behind the scenes. So the thought here is that we would have 2 or 3 use cases maybe that we clearly identify on the website, so you can kind of select that, and that would send a message to us, and we would quickly set that up. So the view is that for the spring release, we're going to still be involved and work with you on making sure that the right things are set up. But where we see this going is even more automated thing where you can actually create your own group of microsites for certain use cases. So we'll still be involved in talking through what you really need and make sure the right things are set up. But you'd be able to kind of guide through and understand what the different use cases are and make that more targeted request.
It's still a little bit of a walk before you run kind of approach is what we're taking here to do that. And then just kind of give you an idea, right? So now when you click on admin, in order to get into the group feature, you're gonna see that kind of is down within the tree, and now that's not going to be there. So you'll be able to click on the groups. And again, we just did some research this morning on it, and I didn't put a slide in here, but of the category of global premium members, we're well above 90% that are either participating or hosting custom groups. So again, if you don't understand the capabilities here, I really highly recommend that you get with Paul and I and let us talk about what you can do here, because this is a really big value add to your membership, and for the open group members, this is part of your membership that you're paying for. So invite you to, in this case, if a company doesn't have any open groups, we're going to tell you don't. Or I'm sorry, any custom groups, we're going to tell you that you don't here. Okay, and then if you do, again, this is not a big change to what's already there. We've just actually highlighted it a little bit more because we think this is where we're headed from a member perspective and alliance perspective. Okay, and then again, this sort of ties back to the other slide, but what we've done is the same thing in creating relationships. So what we've run into is some of these very strategic groups, they don't, when usually you come into a many-to-many group, it's the ability for then you to engage and collaborate with everybody that's in that group, just like you do in the open group concept, but maybe in a little bit more customized fashion where you've defined the terms of the relationship as well as the people that are in it. Well, what we found was when you get other partners involved in it, maybe they only need to see certain partners, but they don't need to see everybody else, or you've got competitors in there for whatever reason. So basically what we've done is we've really, this kind of ties into what I talked about at the very beginning of this, is we've done a lot of work behind the scenes where we stripped out a lot of the legacy stuff that was kind of holding us down and saying who could see who or who participates with who. And we can actually go in and define that now. So it's something that we do kind of behind the scenes, but now you've got the ability to be able to come into a group and say, okay, if I'm hosting this group, I want this company to see this company, but I don't want them to see this company or these set of companies. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing with this release, and we think that that'll tie very quickly into what we've heard in pulling channel partners in. So where you've got a solution that involves vendors and channel partners, maybe some of those channel partners don't need to see other channel partners as an example. So we've got the ability to isolate that down, and you're going to be able to define who sees what and who sees who. So really anything that you want to do from that perspective of creating a relationship, creating a solution, and then being able to pull those people in and being for defining who sees who and who is part of that relationship, pretty much we've got that covered. So anything, Paul, I think pretty much that anything we got it covered sort of gets that, but anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, and I think this is ties very closely into our strategy in the area of solution support. So, once we started to kind of dig into that, we started to see some limitations in how our member web kind of supported that, right? So as Dennis said, one of the kind of common things is a group of vendors putting a product together. They all want to see each other, they all want to work together, but then they want to extend that out to the channel, and they don't necessarily want the channel to understand who the other channel partners are. So, kind of a combination of a many-to-many and a one-to-many extension. So some of those things now will be possible here with the spring release.
Okay, and that's really, sure. That's really all we have for this particular webinar. Actually, it took a little bit more time than I thought. If you've got any questions, we certainly would be more than happy to take those. If you want to raise your hand or type in a question, we'll stay on the air here for a little bit longer. But I'll let you know we're probably looking at a release date certainly sometime in May, towards the middle to the end of May is where we're kind of targeting it right now. We're in a pretty intense Q&A right now on our beta site and getting stuff going, especially with the stripping out of the kind of legacy code. So it's kind of touched a lot of areas. So we're working pretty hard with that. But we're projecting probably around the mid to latter part of next month. And if you've got any questions for Paul or myself, let me quickly give you our contact information. It's Dennis, D-E-N-N-I-S, @tsanet.org. and Paul at Paul at tsanet.org. And that really is pretty much everything that we've got to cover. I don't have any other questions that has come in. Paul, anything you want to add before we close it down?
No, I think that covered it well.
Okay. So anyway, hopefully we're going to be in touch with you again, right, on this. We're not pushing anything out until we coordinate with you on any of this stuff, but hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of these new features, and we appreciate your attendance today. Okay, thanks everybody.